Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Caitlin from Florals.com and today I have my collab again with Sara Scraps. We're doing card making for scrapbookers. So this involves a simple technique. This month we're trying out clear stickers, which I have some here that I'm going to be sharing with you today to use to make simple cards. I also have these stencils out. Now I'm using these because I have them, but obviously once I show you the technique it can be done with a DIY stencil or any stencil. So I just wanted to show you guys that I'm using these Crafters Workshop stencils. This one, I don't know if they have names. Well, this one's squares and then this one's different, smaller shapes, and then they have little sizes here. The numbers on the bottom are 180S and then 134 or 314S. So imagine their stencils 314 and 180. So we're gonna get started. These are just some Paper Studio stickers and they're beautiful flowers. Now to make my card fronts, I'm going to be using some Nina cardstock that's cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I think this is just the best buttery cardstock there is. I bought one of those reams of it so I could use it. I think I'll maybe try 2 cards today. If you guys like this live style, please let me know. I know that some of you do and some of you don't, so I'm kind of switching it up. And if I get to any other, if I make any other versions, I'll have photos of them at the end. So what I'm going to do is actually use the square. Actually, let's use one of these rounded ones first. See how that looks. And essentially what we're going to be doing is inking inside the shape here so that our flower can sit on the shape. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do is grab some washi tape. Painter's tape works beautifully if you don't want to risk tearing your paper. You can also see that I'm just doing it on my work surface, but we're going to be ink blending, so you might want to use a mat that doesn't get ink everywhere. I'm taping both the paper and the stencil down because I've had stencil issues before. And you might also want to cover up these splotches on your paper, just in case your inking gets a little wild. You never know nowadays. So I'm just going to lay those down. Now based on the color palette of these flowers, I want to do some really pretty warm tones for my background here. So I'm going to look through my Distress inks. So I don't really want to do greens, blues, or purples. Some purples would work for this actually. These are the same 2 sheets, so I'm going to set one aside. I think I'm going to start with this one, or no, let's try this tall rose. I think we're going to make the rose first. And again, these are clear back stickers, so they don't have that white outline. So we're going to start with this beautiful rose image. And I think that we might want to try a nice baby pink, which is the tattered rose color. I mean, rose and rose. How perfect is that? We're going to give this a try. Of course, you can always just opt for another color to layer on top. There's so many options. And then another item that I wanted to try out is, if you guys haven't been following the card making community, and you might not be because you are a scrapbooker if you're watching this most likely, you might know that there have been new brushes released for ink blending. So traditionally you'd use a foam blender of some sort, or there are stencil brushes that you can use as well. But recently there's been these types of brushes released. They look like makeup brushes. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're very similar to makeup brushes, and they're actually very expensive, the first people who brought them out for stamping specific. So what I did was go on Amazon and just buy the cheapest makeup brush that I could find, just to try it out to see if it was a nice smooth finish like it said it was from the other ones. So these are just some oval brushes. We'll give them a try. They're just from a random brand on Amazon. So far I haven't seen the bristles fall out, so I'm not too worried about that. But that was one of my concerns before I got them in person. So since this is such a light color, it doesn't really matter what brush I use. I haven't used these yet, but as you can see, they're so many bristles. And I think it's going to give a very soft look. So I'm also going to get a test piece of paper just in case we get too much ink or there's an issue. So I'm going to grab one right here. Just an extra scratch piece of paper. And opening my ink. I'll actually zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go. So I have my brush. I'm going to start using it on my scrap piece first. I'm not sure how you're supposed to gather the ink. Since these are dark tipped ends, I won't know if I have ink until I put it to paper. Which, as you can tell, there wasn't anything there. So let's be a little more aggressive And if this doesn't work, I just wanted to try these on camera for you guys. You can tell there's a little bit of color there. I'm wondering if it's because it is such a, oh, there we go. Because it is such a light color, it might not pick up as easily. Now, this is also a great way to test the color palette. I'm not sure if I'm in love with this color. I might try the Victorian Violet, which I think, or the Victorian Velvet, which might give a little bit more of the color I'm looking for. So let me wipe off my brush a little bit more. This isn't working as how I thought it would. But let's try Victorian Velvet. Just kind of rubbing it in. This is supposed to give a nice soft look, which it definitely is, and I think this is a great color for that rose. So I'm just going to move straight into my stencil here. And like I mentioned before, you can do this without having the stencil. There's several ways you can achieve this sort of look. You can use a paper punch on a thicker piece of cardstock and then use the cardstock as a stencil. You could use a Silhouette or a Cricut or any of those machines to get a different shape stencil like this. You can use a regular stencil, like one of those multi-pattern stencils. But just something to give a little bit of color to the background of your clear sticker. By doing this, a solid background, your clear sticker will kind of absorb that as their border edge. These stickers are actually kind of a matte finish, which I think is very interesting. So I think they'll look great on any color, but those ones that are a little bit more, I would say, reflective, might have more issues using those. So again, I hope to make some more examples this month, but if I don't get to it, Sara is going to have some great examples as well. And I'll have hers linked down below, so you guys can definitely check it out. So I'm really liking the fade, like the darker to the lighter at the top. I think that's a really beautiful look. And helps give the weight to the bottom, so that the rose doesn't feel like it's totally floating. At least I hope it's a rose. I've been calling it a rose this whole time and I don't know. And then if you layer it more and more, this is giving quite a smooth finish. I think it's a lot smoother than both of the Distress Ink original types of blending tools. Although I've never tried a stencil brush, those thick brushes that people have been using. So I'm just going to keep blending it out until I'm satisfied. Now I don't know how to clean this either, so I have a baby wipe here with some other Distress Ink on it. I'm just going to wipe it off a little bit. I'm not sure if this is going to help it or hurt it, but it is getting a little bit of the ink off, so I'll just let this dry off to the side, and then we can move on to taking our tape off. Now when I work with Distress Inks, I have to be very careful because I get it all over my fingers, and then I get it all over my finished card, and it makes me upset. So we want to make sure we peel the washi tape slowly, one, so we don't rip our beautiful paper that we just inked up beautifully, and two, that we don't rip the washi tape so it's impossible to get off. Now also be aware that there is ink on top of your washi tape if you went over it, so you don't want to be touching it and then touching your card. But if you're not into ink blending, you could do this with modeling paste or spritzing in a stencil. You'll just make sure you need to cover the rest of your area very thoroughly so that your stencil edges don't show. Or you can just cut it down later, which is something I usually do. In the home stretch here, and then the final reveal. I also don't think this is centered, so that's okay though. We're okay, we're a little bit centered. So now I'm just going to make, these is a great way to make a basic set of note cards, especially ones that coordinate. So I wiped off my stencil with a baby wipe just so it was a little bit cleaner. And like I mentioned, actually, I'm going to attach this to my card base before I go anywhere else. So I have regular A2 size cards already made, which is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So you cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper at 5.5, then you turn it and score it at 4 1/4, and then you have an A2 size card. So I'm just gonna put this on here. It looks like my card base is a little big, slash this might be a little too small. But just so we can see what we're working with, I am going to put the sticker on first. I thought I was going to do it the other way first, but let's try the sticker first. So I think I also want to pair it with a second set of maybe this bud or maybe this one. So maybe I should do it this way. So since these are clear stickers, you can kind of see how you can still see the line of the ink through the leaf here. You can kind of see that difference. Let's see. I don't really know if I want to put a sentiment on this right now. I think it's quite beautiful just plain like this. But again, totally up to you. Let's see, I have this one. I'm not sure if I want a second one on there. They're all beautiful though. Like I think this would be nice, and then a sentiment in the box or a sentiment down here. I think I'm just gonna go like this. And then put this one back. For now at least. So now that we have those two down, I think a sentiment would fit perfectly in here. Now, when I make cards, sometimes I don't know what kind of sentiment I want on it. This would be a great sympathy card, a great thinking of you card, maybe a birthday card, depending on who you're giving it to. But let's finish assembling this card and then we'll do another version of this. Now for this version, I decided to pull out the second stencil, which I'm thinking that you could easily use this if you do a lot of cutouts on your silhouette and you have something left over. So I'm going to be using all 4 of these squares actually, and I've also pulled out 2 greens. I have Shabby Shutters and Bundled Sage. I think I'm going to go with Bundled Sage, but I'm not 100% sure, so I pulled both out. And I will be using a traditional blending tool this time so that we can get some variation in look and see which one really is softer. Let's tape down our stencil. And again, when using the traditional blender, you might want to put a lot of extra tape down because I tend to find that I swirl outside of where I should be for some of my stenciling. And like I mentioned before, painter's tape is a really great option if you plan to do a lot of taping and you don't want to rip your paper. But washi tape's a less expensive option, generally. I'm going to tape off this section too, just so we have more tape to matte ratio, so that my paper doesn't move while I am blending. So again, I'm going to use a traditional ink blending tool, and I wanted to use one of these, or maybe both of these peachy flowers. So I'm going to start with the softer ink and try to do a really light hand. I've actually never used Shabby Shutters, so we shall see how this goes. It's always hard when you get oh, this one's really juicy. I haven't had this one like this before in a while. I have my scratch paper here. And then you can compare if you think those stickers would go well. I think the greens kind of clash, not gonna lie. So we're gonna reevaluate. I don't have swatches made for these yet, even though I really should, but I do not. Modelon, Lucky Clover. Let's try Lucky here. I think it's gonna be too dark, but I think it's gonna match the leaves better, so I might like it better. So looking at that one next to this, also kind of weird. So I ended up settling for Milled Lavender as my ink of choice for this one. I just think that, one, I haven't used it enough, and two, it can give me that nice soft look that I'm looking for behind these flowers. So again, always start off on the edge of your project so you don't get too much ink on your cardstock because you might not want that harsh of a color. I know it probably isn't picking up well on camera, but there's actually a lot of color in here already in this bottom box here. Again, bringing a very gentle hand to it. And I'm going to start in the bigger box. I also don't like the noise these blenders make, but that might just be a personal problem. I'm trying to get them the same color. I don't really want them to be different shades of this purple. And I usually go for a round technique when I'm blending. But of course it depends what type of look you're going for. I'm going to start on this little guy here just so I can also blend into this one. Okay. Okay, they're all looking pretty much the same. I think there's a little blob on that one, but that's okay. So I'm going to put the milled lavender away. And then we're going to start peeling off our tapes again, which is satisfying but also scary because you could rip your paper like I just did. Now luckily I can always just trim this down or add a mat around it if you really needed it to be the right size for your card. Again, being careful because my fingers are inky from the washi tape that has ink on it. One last one to go. There we go. And now we have like this mid-century modern sort of feel here on the card. Again, not centered, but that's okay. Now if I bring my florals back in, this one would actually look beautiful. I'm just going to take it off to see what it would look like. Maybe we'll switch our idea here around. But imagine a whole note card of these for like Christmas. Super cute. I think I'm going to grab, let's see if this is here. Maybe it should be in this block. Let me grab this too. And I'm also going to grab that bud. I'm pretty sure these aren't the right leaves, but maybe they are. Those are kind of temporarily down. They're not exactly 100% down. Oh, I accidentally dropped that one, so it might be 100% down. So since they are see-through stickers, it is a little bit harder to layer because you'll be able to see the stem through that flower. So I think I'm liking this. Again, a sentiment right here on a banner. Let me put this one back before I drop it. But something simple like this could add a lot of impact. Now I'm going to finish up this card and then show you what I do with the final thing. What I'm thinking is I'm going to trim this down since I did rip it a little bit up here and actually put a black mat around it and then put it on my white note card. So we'll see how it looks after that. So here are the two completed cards that I did with the clear floral stickers and then the ink blending technique. Again, if you guys forgot, this one was done with these makeup brushes that I bought off of Amazon. And this one was done with the traditional Tim Holtz ink blending distress tool. So if you're into ink blending, I'd highly recommend trying out a brush set. One of the cheap ones is great. It might work for you, but then again, there could be long-term side effects. So be aware of that. But these are the two finished cards. I went for a simple hello on this one, which is not stamped, but it does kind of look stamped. And these are actually some basic gray letter stickers. And then I went plain on this one. I think this one speaks a lot for a sympathy card. I feel like this looks like stained glass windows, sort of gives that soothing vibe. But I did add that black mat, like I mentioned, because I had torn the paper up here earlier when taking the washi tape off. So these are my two cards that I'm showing you in this live tutorial. There might be some more photos at the end. You can definitely see Sarah's card over on her channel. You won't want to miss it. But this is what we were tackling this month, was clear stickers. Let us know if you guys want to see us tackle anything else for the card making for Scrapbookers series. We have a lot of fun doing this. This is our second month, I think. And there's obviously a lot more to cover, so let me know what you guys would like to see next so we can try it out. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to head over to Sarah's channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!